Time check! It's English O'Clock! Ang pag-aaral ng English upang madaling matutunan, bakit hindi natin simplihan? Halika! Manood at makinig sa English Teacher ni Juan! Kung bago ka pa lang sa channel na to, huwag kang matakot! I made learning English easy for you! Please like, comment, and subscribe! At pakishare mo na rin sa iba para marami pang mga Juan na gaya mo ang matuto.
A wonderful day to everyone. This is Sharon P. Bautista, your discussant for this afternoon, and my presentation is entitled Focus on English Phonetics. Focus on English Phonetics is actually a book, a collection of papers created by scholars gathered around the Belgrade International Meeting of English Phoneticians, started in 2008 by Professor Biljana Kubrvic of the Faculty of Philology, University of Belgrade in Serbia. I was assigned to discuss the part 1, which is composed of 3 different research works with the following titles: Using MRI to see English sounds and their overlap, Acquiring L2 vowels, the production of high English vowels by Bulgarian native speakers, and lastly, Original Pronunciation, the accent of Shakespeare's London. So let me start with the first study, Using MRI to see English sounds and their overlap by Alan Crittenden. According to Cambridge English Dictionary, phonetics is the study of the sounds made by the human voice in speech. So, studying phonetics deals with observing and studying the tongue movements, which is very essential in sound and speech production. This is one of the articulators that we humans use to produce the sounds of English. But how is tongue movement observed before with the absence of advanced technology? Did they hire Two-Faced in Batman movie to see how the tongue moves inside the mouth? Did he participate in the study? Now, what is in the picture? Until the 20th century, we had no way of looking directly at tongue movements. In the 20th century, X-rays were used to study such movements, but it was too expensive to be used very often, and as the procedure became cheaper, a new problem arose. X-rays radiation is hazardous to health when used too often. So only a very limited number of X-rays of the tongue were ever made, and of course, those that were made showed only single static images, so the subject would have to hold an articulation for an unnatural length of time. Everybody here already had undergone X-ray machines, right? Where you are asked to hold your breath for a few seconds. So imagine how hard it is to hold your tongue to observe how you speak. The result will be very unnatural, right? Now, are you familiar with MRI? What is MRI? An MRI scan uses a large magnet, radio waves, and a computer to create a detailed cross-sectional image of internal organs and structures within the body. So Crittenden in this study describes the introduction of MRI into articulation study, that MRI is the technology more suitable to use in the investigation of segmental articulation and particularly co-articulation phenomena. It uses changes in electromagnetic current to study various tissues of the body. With the introduction of the new procedure of MRI or magnetic resonance imaging, the radiation hazard has been overcome. This became the new method in studying the articulation of vowels and consonants that has been developed at the Phonetics Laboratory in Oxford. More recently, there has been a development called dynamic MRI. Dynamic MRI means producing pictures of movements as opposed to states. It has been used to picture blood flow through the brain and heart. Producing single MRI images is very slow, much too slow on its own to show the rapid movements involved in, say, blood flow through the heart. Therefore, use is made of the fact that blood flows through the heart in regular pulses. To capture regular movement, an MRI image is taken at a slightly later stage in each pulse. When these images are put together, they show the continuous movement involved in each pulse. A method has now been developed using a similar technique to study the movement of the tongue in the mouth. To make MRIs of tongue movements, an element of repetition has to be built in, like the pulses of blood in the heart. Individual speakers are trained to repeat a short phrase like ride in fog rhythmically to the beat of a metronome. MRI images are produced slightly later on each repetition. Putting the images together produces a picture of the tongue movement throughout the phrase. One advantage of these MRIs over X-rays, aside from the absence of the radiation hazard, is that they show soft tissue variations more clearly. The disadvantage is that some hard tissue does not always show up very well. For images of the mouth, this refers mainly to the upper teeth. Additionally, these MRIs are taken in only one plane, the mid-sagittal section like what is shown in the picture, with the result that vertical movement is shown but horizontal movement is not. So the larynx can be seen moving up and down while the opening and the closing of the vocal cords cannot be seen. There is thus no direct information on voicing. Hence, the attached videos of movements of the tongue and lips in the articulation of short phrases were gathered by a procedure known as gated MRI, video MRI, or stroboscopic MRI. This is a procedure that has been used to show movements within the heart as it beats. Use is made of the fact that the heart beats at a roughly regular rate by taking a scan at a slightly later stage in each successive beat. The illusion can be produced of movements within the heart. For watching the articulation of a phrase in the mouth, the drawback is that the subject must repeat the utterance 18 to 20 times to beat of a metronome. The more precisely the subject repeats the phrase, the better the final image quality will be. The procedure starts with a short pre-MRI training session to get the subject used to the phrases and the metronome. The outcome is a series of 68 frames showing a sagittal section of the head, which can then be converted to video. Because the procedure involves a number of repetitions gated between metronome beats, it is circular. Thus, the beginning of a phrase shows up not as the first of the 68 frames, but at a place that varies from phrase to phrase. The frames have to be carefully inspected to identify this beginning, though subjects usually place the first accented syllable of the phrase on the metronome beat. Thus, the first frame usually shows the vowel in that syllable, and at the last frame wraps around into that same vowel. Audio is not available because of the noise reduction techniques that have to be applied to overcome the very loud sound of the MRI scanner. It results in audio which has a teeny quality and sounds non-human. Because the repetitions are circular, there may be regressive and progressive influences between the end and the beginning of a phrase. Some of the phrases were spoken with a pause between the end and the beginning of the next repetition, but not all of them were. Hence, a number of frames showing such assimilation have to be discarded at the boundary. Once the sequence of frames has been treated in this way, it can then be converted to video. Finally, to enable the videos to be stopped at appropriate places, they have been slowed down by a factor of 12. Before, Ma'am Patnon discussed about articulatory phonetics, and she talked about the speech organs, specifically familiarizing us with the different parts of the vocal tract. Start from the spine and the spinal vertebrae. In front of vertebrae can be seen firstly the esophagus or the food pipe, and then the trachea or the windpipe. The larynx and the vocal cords cannot be seen. In front of the first two vertebrae is the back wall of the pharynx or the throat. The epiglottis, which serves to block off the esophagus when speaking, can be seen at the top of the trachea. Then the big blob above and forward of the epiglottis is the tongue. Here in this video, above the tongue, the thin silvers the hard palate, and where it broadens towards the back is the soft palate. When we look at videos containing a nasal, the in, the soft palate can be seen moving away from the back wall of the pharynx, thus opening up the airway to the nose. Where the hard palate curls downwards at the front is the alveolar ridge or the teeth ridge. The teeth cannot be seen, although we can tell where the upper teeth are when the tip of the tongue moves forward to form the soft and the hard th. To view the MRI videos just like the one you saw, the website has to be accessed through any of the two posted links here. It is called the Gibson's Pronunciation of English. Now, look at this phrase, ride in fog, in more detail. This is just one out of the 15 English phrases that were produced by a speaker chosen as representing a modern form of RP or received pronunciation. RP is the type which is commonly associated with upper class. So, the person that they used to produce these phrases or these sounds is a female in her 20s. All 15 phrases were chosen to include all the consonants and vowels of English. In the first eighth, you can see the tip of the tongue somewhat curled to the rear of the teeth ridge for r. Around 1/4, the body of the tongue is in position for the first half of the diphthong a, and approaching 1/3, the front of the tongue moves towards the hard palate for the second half of the diphthong e, or the short e. The tip of the tongue is now forming the closure for the d. You can see the tip of the tongue showing up as the bright bit. Although not able to see the teeth, you can judge that the tip is against the juncture between the teeth ridge and the upper teeth. There is no realization of the short e between the d and the n. Rather, the nasopharynx can be seen opening behind the uvula to change oral d into nasal n. This can be seen around halfway. The next movement, as the nasopharynx closes again, shows the lower lip moving upwards to make contact with the upper teeth for the f. The lip movement but not the upper teeth showing for the labiodental articulation. By 2/3, the base of the tongue is pulled backwards to form the lower back vowel or the a. And following this, the back of the tongue then rises up to make a closure for the g. Notice that even following a low back vowel, the sounds and their overlap closure is still in the middle of the soft palate and nowhere near being uvular. Ride in fog. Now the phrase curious bear. The tongue starts at the position for k, similar to the position for g in the previous fog, but further forward because it is before a J. That's J. Around 1/8 of the phrase, the body of the tongue has slid forward for the front position for J. The U for the curious is hardly visible on the video. It is obviously even more fronted than usual because of the preceding J, and it might be seen from a front view in some rounding of the lips, which of course is not visible in the video. The following R for cure shows no curling of the tip as it had at the beginning of ride, but is made by raising the blade of the tongue towards the back of the teeth ridge. Evidently, this is like the bunched R, R, often described as a common realization of R, the R, on American English. At the same time, the tip is moving forward and at around halfway is at the base of the teeth ridge for S. Curious. Curious. The lips now move together for the B. The front rises again for the short E. E. Yeah, that's the short E. And finally, lowers somewhat again for the E. For the E. Curious beer. Beer. This study is actually very technical, as you can see. If you want to learn more, you can just check the link posted in the presentation to learn more about the other phrases. It will show you all the 15 phrases Alan Crittenden had included, and also there are annotations provided for each one video for you to be guided while watching it. Now, as for the conclusion, the study proved the use of MRI video, that it has the potential for confirming much articulatory information that we previously knew only by our feeling for what is going on in the mouth. The principal word of these videos to teachers is to better inform their own knowledge, to get the students away from the idea of static sequences, which can be an unfortunate side effect of transcription, and to make this as another way to spark an interest in phonetics. So now let us proceed to another study. Acquiring L2 vowels, the production of High English vowels, the long E, the short E, the long U, and the short U by Bulgarian native speakers Vetanka Chernogorova. I actually wasn't able to get the full article of this study. It is unavailable on the internet because the whole book is being sold for around 2,500 pesos. I even tried to contact the author by sending an email requesting for the full text in one of the sites for researches. I think that's researchgate.com since December, but I haven't received a reply from her. So let me just share to you what I got about this study. Now, unlike the English language, which has 12 monophthongs, Bulgarian has only 6. This difference in number makes the acquisition of second language vowels difficult for Bulgarian learners of English, who find the production of the English high vowels E, E, U, U, especially difficult because of their seeming similarity to the Bulgarian high vowels E and U. This paper presents the results of a study of the production of L2 high vowels and attempts to show how the articulation of L1 high vowels interferes in this process and affects the acquisition of L2 high vowels. The subjects of the study were first-year students at the University of Sofia whose major is English philology. They were recorded pronouncing a number of English words in their citation form containing the English high vowels and a number of Bulgarian words containing the Bulgarian high vowels. The results show different degrees of acquisition of L2 high vowels, from complete substitution with the L1 high vowel E through an acceptable alteration of the quality of the sound in the direction of L2 to satisfactory or very good acquisition. But before we go on further, let us first explain the differences among these three vowel sound categories. So first we have high vowel. High vowel is pronounced with the tongue arched toward the roof of the mouth. Example, E in machine and U in rule. Mid vowel. Mid vowel has the tongue positioned between the extremes of high and low. Example, E in bed and O in pole. Low vowel is produced with the tongue relatively flat and low in the mouth and with the mouth open a little wider than for high vowels. Example, A in father or had. So high vowel is E, mid vowel is E, low vowel is A. So again, the English high vowel compared to the Bulgarian high vowel. So let us try to read the examples here. So for the long E, we have sheep. Short E, ship. Long U, we have good. Short U, shoot. Now for the Bulgarian high vowels, we only have two. The E for internet and the U for the wood. As you can see, we cannot see the difference between short and long vowel phonemes in Bulgarian compared to English. Due to the fundamental differences between the vowel systems of Bulgarian and English, Bulgarians tend to disregard the qualitative-quantitative distinction between the English long and short vowel phonemes. Bulgarian learners of English find the production of the English high vowels especially difficult because of their seeming similarity to the Bulgarian high vowels. Thus, it can be said that the process of acquiring L2 phonological categories is greatly impeded by the categories of one's L1. The results of some studies have shown that in establishing the new categories in the foreign language, non-native speakers may resort to phonetic cues from the native speakers. That's according to Bon and Fledge in 1992 and Fledge et al. In 1997 and Escudero in 2002. The purpose of this study is to investigate how the acquisition of phonological contrasts and phonetic realizations in a second language is affected by the first language phonological knowledge. Although, initially, the study did not aim to test the two models of L2 vowel acquisition, Flage's speech learning model, or the SLM, and Best's perceptual assimilation model, or the PAM, the results of the experiment prompted the author to make these two the most influential models, which explain the perception and production of L2 phoneme categories in relation to the categories found in the learner's native language part of this paper. Flage's model predicts that L2 vowel phonemes which exhibit sufficient phonetic difference from the L1 target categories are developed earlier into new phonetic categories by non-native speakers. Best's model describes a process by which we perceptually assimilate non-native phonemes into our own phonemic inventory. If a foreign category is similar to an L1 category, it will be assimilated to it. Therefore, if a single L1 category is similar to the two distinct L2 sounds, discrimination is expected to be poor. So these two models are also tested, and it is shown that the degree to which an L2 sound is acquired greatly depends on its articulatory and auditory similarity to or difference from the corresponding L1 category. This paper presents the results of an experiment which investigates the production of the English front and back high vowels by a group of first-year students who study English philology at the University of Sofia in an attempt to show how the production of L2 vowels by relatively proficient speakers whose first language is Bulgarian is influenced by the prior L1 phonological knowledge, and to show that the extent to which L2 sounds have been acquired depends on the articulatory and auditory similarities and differences between the two languages. So now we are on to the final part of my report, the third and the final research study with the title Original Pronunciation, The Accent of Shakespeare's London by Andrei Belakovic. William Shakespeare was an English poet, dramatist, and actor often called the English national poet and considered by many to be the greatest dramatist of all time. We've read a lot of his literary works, but have you ever wondered how did he speak? How do we know how people pronounced English in Shakespeare's day? So, how do you say this the British English way? Answer: Harry Potter. Again, Harry Potter. Sounds like a bad word, but with glass, right? But this is how they say it using the standard British English. The R must be silent. Potter. But do you think it's the same way if Shakespeare say it during the Elizabethan period? So Andrei Belakovic, with this study, aims to provide a brief sketch of early modern English pronunciation, which could serve as an accessible reference tool for anyone interested in the history of English, both lay readers and linguists. He showed standard lexical sets of present-day English used as the starting point. He also provided examples in the form of verses taken from the works of William Shakespeare transcribed in IPA. Let's begin with the rhotic R. Early modern English was a rhotic dialect with a heavy R coloration of vowels that are followed by R. The silent R of today's received pronunciation, or the standard British English, is a more recent development.
Nurse, start, north, force, letter, air, flower, Orsino, Ferdinand.
So allow me to try this example. I'm not sure if this is acceptable or even close to Shakespeare's accent that we are talking about, but I'll try. Let me read it first in my normal way of speaking. Then should a warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, lished in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire. Now, following the transcription, then should a warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, lashed hounds, should famine, sword, and fire. I know it didn't sound perfect based on the transcription given, but it's really uncomfortable reading it that way. Now, the mouth lexical set. The diphthong had a centered onset and started with the schwa or neutral vowel a, resulting in ow. Examples:
oat, load, known, count, crowed, bow.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Now with the transcription. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Next is the price and choice lexical sets. This diphthong, too, had a centered onset and started with schwa or neutral vowel a, resulting in I. Examples:
Price, tribe, time, Friday, isle, eider, fight, viola, and choice, pint, bile, tie, a high, royal.
Now try reading this example on your own. Now, with the goat, near, square, face, and cure sets. These vowels, diphthongs, or two-stage vowels in RP or received pronunciation, and General American, were more monophthongal in early modern English.
Goat, home, near, beer, square, bear, bear, face, stay, fatal, cure, tour, poor.
Now please try reading this example. The happy lexical set. This unstressed syllable also had a neutral onset like price, choice, and mouth. The result: A. A. Examples:
Happy, lovely, city, baby, money, festy, valley.
Now let's proceed to the strut lexical set. The close mid back unrounded vowel a captures likely quality of this vowel. Examples:
Cup, rub, butter, love, monk, blood, hum, summer.
the trap lexical set. A more open front vowel than today's a, similar to the a vowel in the dialects of northern England. Examples:
Trap, am, scalp, ara, Capulet, Malvolio, Andrew, Battery, Axion.
lot and though lexical sets. Since the lot and though lexical sets were pronounced without the lip rounding of today's RP, we are directed to the less rounded versions spoken in mainstream American English. Examples:
Lot, stop, rob, profit, honest, swan, knowledge, want, watch, and daughter, awkward, ought, call, stock.
goose lexical set. A long monophthong. Retain the lip rounding of conservative RP, U in the goose lexical set. Examples:
loop, mood, dupe, Juliet, funeral, duty, fruit, beauty.
bath set, another long monophthong. Minimal pair e to a and a possibly in words with NC like dance and chance. Examples:
Stuff, path, brass, blast, ask, master, basket.
the fleece lexical set. The long E in words with double E or IE in spelling like fleece, peace. And the A to E, or in some accents already merged with the long E, in words with EA or EI and some with ECE. Examples:
Say, failed, bay, papal, breathe, complete, Caesar, Phoenix.
Now with the word stress, trisyllabic words with stress on the first syllable often had secondary stress on the final syllable with unreduced or with an unreduced vowel. Hence, rhymes such as date and temperate, age and pilgrimage, advance and ignorance, day and AZA or ACA. Now for the consonants, they have the sound R, most likely R. Initially and intervocalically, it is written as the inverted R, preconsonantally and preposally. Now they do also have this digraph, okay? The sh, j, ch, j. Most unstressed instances had not yet coalesced and hence were sh, j, ch, and j. However, in chore, jor, shore, plain, t, d, s, or z. Thus, musician or musician and nature, nature. They do also have this phonetic issue about the H, the ing, and the WH, so as the KN and the GN. Okay. Now, these two are the important pioneers in our modern time who have spearheaded the effort to understand Shakespeare's pronunciation. Ben Crystal is a Shakespearean actor whose father, a linguist, David Crystal, one of the world's foremost researchers on how English was spoken in Shakespeare's time. Actually, many word examples I read in the previous slides, I took them from David Crystal's. Now, let us hear it from the actor himself, Ben Crystal, how to speak the Shakespeare's way, since I really am not capable to do it because I have my own accent as a Filipino. Now, first, he will be reciting the lines in his natural accent, then he will be reciting it in Shakespeare's accent. Try to listen and to observe the differences.
In received pronunciation and then in original pronunciation. And when I do the original pronunciation, I'd love to hear both from the people in the room and abroad. You're going to hear all sorts of different things. I'd love to hear what accents it reminds you of. And I will exaggerate both accents a little bit for the effect. The opening of Romeo and Juliet. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood lays civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal lines of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. Same speech, and this is as close as we can get to what Shakespeare's accent would have sounded like, and the accent of his actors. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our sin. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood lays civil lands unclean. From forth the fatal lines of theirs two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take the life, whose misadventured, piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. It's cool, isn't it? I like. What accents does it remind you of? West Country, Scotland, Ireland, yeah. Archers. The Archers is a radio show. It doesn't matter, I'll explain to you later. I'm explaining to the rest of the world. Yeah, other accents. American, yep. Pirate. You know, I go into... No, you see, I go into schools about once a month over here and in Europe, and wherever I go, whatever age, whether it's 8 years old or 18 years old, and I say, what accent does it remind you of? And someone goes, Pirates of the Caribbean! Har! Yes, indeed. No, it's true, though, and there's a reason for that, too. But yeah, other accents. Oxfordshire, yeah. There's a theme here. Say the accent you don't want to say because you think you'd be wrong. Midland, yeah. You didn't? Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our sin from ancient. I've had people say Canadian. I've had people say Australian. You're all right. Shakespeare's London was a melting pot of accents. People would come from Norwich and Wales and Scotland and Ireland and the Midlands and Somerset and pirate country. And they'd come to London and their accents would all mix in together. And then, of course, later on, they'd go to Bristol and sail across to America. And later still, they'd be sent to Bristol and go down to Australia. And that's, in part, where those accents all come from. Notice what it did to me? Two households, both alike in dignity in fair Verona, where we lay under, and come sort of slightly restricted here. Two households, I'm exaggerating it, of course. Two households, both alike in dignity. I've hunkered down. My centre, as actors would say, has shifted from some things like up here to much more earthier down here. My voice has dropped even further too. Two households. A deeper resonance has been engaged. A very useful resonance when you're outside in a theatre like, I don't know, let's say the Globe. It's faster too, hey? Two households, both alike in dignity. Two households, both alike in dignity. When they did the first original pronunciation experiment at the Globe, they were scared that people wouldn't understand it, and so they did most of the production in received pronunciation and 3 performances over a weekend in original pronunciation. Now, they, of course, did the scene that you saw Aslam and Jenny act, which is Romeo and Juliet meeting at a dance, and the director had choreographed the dance and the sonnet perfectly, and when they finished dancing, they finished speaking, and it was great. And then they did it in original pronunciation. And they were speaking so much faster, they got to the end of the sonnet, but they had still about a minute left of dancing with nothing left to say. No, we can't high five. The original pronunciation production was 10 minutes faster. Which could, you could understand then, as the chorus says, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. It's more achievable, perhaps. Definitely not the 3 3/4 hours traffic of our stage, as many Shakespeare productions have grown to.
And that ends my presentation. I hope you learned a lot. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.
So did you learn something today? Sure ako na hindi ka na nosebleed. If you want more of this video tutorial and learn English in a light speed, huwag kalimutang mag-subscribe at i-turn on ang notification button para updated ka sa mga bagong lessons. Ako ang teacher mo, ang English teacher ni Juan. Class dismissed! See ya!